America's mayor live from Dover, New Hampshire, and that's Washington, D.C. That's a picture that'll be in a history book. That's about as an extraordinary a combination at the White House of world leaders as it ever has been. And when we talk about the importance of leadership, I may have to write leadership too. That's what we're talking about. I mean, 1 million plus people have died because the prior occupant of that office couldn't do that. He couldn't bring those people together. You can't rely on an auto pen to do that for you, or a Politburo. It's the strength of one man's leadership and character, and their ability to know that they have to work with him, and he'll work with them. And each one of them, with the exception maybe of Giorgia Meloni, who is a conservative and on pretty much the same philosophical wavelength as him for years, and been a supporter of his for years. I mean, they've all had some difficulties. His relationship with Macron baffles me. He referred to him as, he was the guy that was here from the beginning. There are two things they agree on. But it's fascinating how he's able to work with these people. I mean, I would say that there is no doubt that there in the middle is the leader of the free world. Because what you have around him is a pretty good representation of the free world. You know, there aren't all that many democracies or free countries. A lot of them are in Europe. We start to go to Africa and Asia, and look what's happening in South America. That's it, babes. And think of all the little jam-ups he's had with each one of them, because Zelenskyy, right? The only one I don't think he's had a sort of dust-up with is Giorgia Meloni, I think. En route from, he really gets along. That's an exceptionally good relationship. I don't know if he orchestrated getting him in there. They must have had a good relationship when he was president. But they really have like a chemistry. And that's really important, because what he's done for NATO, I mean, NATO hasn't been for real in a long time. Not only is it going to be for real, it's going to be stronger than it's ever been before. And don't think that Putin and Xi don't look at that. I mean, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And Putin is smart enough to know that. So he didn't get what he wanted completely, which is all of Ukraine, so that he could move on to who knows where else. He did get his land bridge to Crimea. I think he wants that Donbass region because that fortification has eluded him, and also the minerals. But that isn't why he fought this war. He fought this war to get Kiev, to take back what he has, either he believes or he's convinced himself is part of Russia. Now, I spent the weekend reading 2 books about Russia. One is the case for Putin. And written by an American, and a loyal American, and a really terrific professor. And the argument is that didn't we realize by pushing NATO up to his doorstep, whether it was Putin or someone else, we were going to drive them to war? George Kennan, who was the god of the Cold War, who I never really, I mean, I had to read George Kennan when I was a political science major and write papers on him, and I always thought he was extremely overrated. Sorry, the Kennan family. But George Kennan, warned that this would happen back in 1993, 94. He said, you keep pushing. Remember George Bush's Secretary of State, Baker, promised Russia, I imagine Gorbachev, if you agree and don't give us a hard time with the breakup of East Berlin, there'll be no extensions in NATO. We won't have to. Well, since then, NATO has extended maybe 800, 900, 1,000 miles right up to the border of Russia. There was no conception in the minds of the Russians then that former Soviet republics like Lithuania and Latvia and Estonia were going to be part of NATO. I don't know. Maybe they didn't think Poland would be. I think they probably suspected that. Now, if that group of countries, the one they fear the most is Poland, that's their ancient enemy. It's a religious enemy, too. Orthodox, Roman Catholic. Sometime I'll tell you the story of the opera Boris Godunov.
I want to hear that story.
You have no idea how incredibly powerful and sad Russian music is. And I'm talking about, you all know him through Tchaikovsky, and Tchaikovsky was a romantic Russian composer. But when we start getting into Mussorgsky and Rimsky-Korsakov, wow. Ivan the Terrible. That's an opera. This is how I learned Russian history, going to the operas. Not true, but. So now let's move to the somewhat neglected other major, possibly more significant, possibly not, but of equal significance because of the lives of the people and our great allies that are at stake there, Israel. The whole thing going on with Hamas. Hamas was not going to agree to a ceasefire unless it was sort of like where U.S. and Russia and where we are now. We'll go right to a peace. No cease. This is the peace. And largely because the ceasefire and Israel was willing to do a ceasefire, but the ceasefires, they weren't getting anywhere. I mean, I thought they made a mistake at the very, very beginning with the first ceasefire, Ted, when they said, oh, we'll take 50 prisoners. Should have been, damn it, we want all those prisoners. You're not entitled to take prisoners. You're not entitled to take hostages in a war. I mean, we know you're savage bastards, but we're not. And I think the U.S. should have gotten involved with that. But I mean, it's really hard for an auto pen to negotiate something. Now, there's something. You want to talk about something that wouldn't have happened if Trump was there? Oh, my goodness. Oh, I mean, those hostages have been back in 2 seconds. I know where he would have pulled the strings, too. But these guys don't.
Can you imagine?
And I also think, you know what I think, Ted? And I know Qatar, and you know that part of the world. I think they can't pull strings in Qatar because they're all goddamn corrupt. I'm sorry. Please, God. I'm trying to learn not to do that. Should not take your name in vain.
And we just can't imagine today's scenario playing out with under President Otto Penn. Can you imagine him hosting these world leaders and the guy before the current one? Yeah.
Remember with Georgia Maloney?
Yeah.
When he was walking off, he was gonna, they'd have put him in an airplane and dropped him out of it. Those guys were paratroopers. Probably didn't like him. Nobody liked him.
Yeah. Do you remember that very?
So so Hamas is now screwing around with Hamas now says, we'll agree to a limited ceasefire. We'll give you 10 we'll agree that we won't be part of the government, but we're not going to give up our arms. Now, you see, what they do is they like to say we're agreeing to a ceasefire, and then they put a poison pill in, which they know Israel can't agree to. Why would Israel agree to Hamas remaining armed? I mean, that would be suicidal. And then everybody, oh, Hamas wants to have peace. Hamas wants to have peace. And the New York Times reporters just do whatever they do to ignore the truth. Well, Bibi doesn't. And Bibi says, look, ceasefire is no different than a peace. You got to agree to everything, boys. Sorry. Hamas, you want to lay down your arms? You give up all your, you're not going to have any guns. We're going to take all your arms. You're going to have nothing to do with the running of Palestine, or of Gaza, rather, or of the West Bank, God forbid. And there's going to be unconditional victory for Israel. And if you we'll then just, if you don't agree, we'll just continue to do the best we can to wipe you out. Every day we use to try to wipe you out. They're now moving a large number of Palestinians. They're moving them from the north, where they're kind of congregating the terrorists, and they're moving all the civilians out so they can take out the terrorists. Now, who the hell does that? Is Russia moving civilians out of Ukraine, out of Zaporizhzhia, or out of Kharkiv, or out of Kherson, or before they bomb it? No, Israel is. And you don't see a difference? So Bibi has said, you agree to everything or the hell with your ceasefire. And by the way, no more bullshit. You want to do a ceasefire, you give us everybody back. I mean, you got more dead than alive now. Which, when we get to review this later on, is part of the problem of doing it this way. This should have been done totally differently, I really believe. But I don't blame Bibi for this. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like to have to work with the auto pen. God. I mean, this should have been a massive extrication mission by the two countries that do it better than anybody in the world. Israel kind of invented it. We improved it. Between the two of us, when we finish and we look at all the hostages that we had, right? And we look at the number that lived and the number that died, I think some professor who wants to do this, who's not a left-wing jerk off, just a fair person, should do an analysis of, hypothetically, had we engaged in a massive extraction, what would have our odds been of recovering a lot more live people and also getting the upper hand? I have no doubt of the answer to that. You have no idea how good our special forces are. You have no idea. Or theirs. I do. And I think Trump would have gone right to them. I don't think Trump wouldn't have let them push them around like that. You got that would have been, you give me those Americans back, damn it. Or, yeah, I'm going to get real upset. And then there's not going to be much of a kingdom of anything left. And then you grab the two-faced ones in Qatar, and you say, okay, guys, you got those billionaires here giving you plenty of money. I want you to turn them over to me. We gave them asylum. Well, I tell you what, pal, I got 30,000 troops right up there, and I don't really give a shit if you're going to turn them over. Yeah, we're going to come and get them. Unless I get every American back now. And don't screw with me. Trump would have done that right away. You wouldn't even know he did it. How do you think he gets these hostages back? Like sweet talk? He plays a violin? So Hamas has got to agree to all. Now, we have American students, I don't know, by the who knows what. And we've got all these foreign students, these Eastern universities, North and Eastern universities, I think have more foreign students than American students. I think you're at a liability if you go to Harvard or Yale or Cornell or boopity doopity if you speak English, because nobody else does. They're making all their money off the foreign students. You got to go down south to find American students, which is why everybody's going down south, by the way, for education. Did you know that? But in any event, the reality is that these groups that have infiltrated the United States are all jumping up and down in favor of Hamas, like the guy running for mayor of New York, Zoltan Mamdani. What's his name?
Mamdani.
Is it? No, not Zoltan. It's Zoran.
Yes.
Zoran, I am a little punk named Zoran Mamdani.
Right.
Boom. Knock him on his ass. One shot.
No.
Okay. Now,
Joking.
Hamas.
You're joking, of course.
Hamas is a really, really wonderful organization for our terrific Ivy League educated students to be so dedicated to. So there's a group that's developed over the last 2 years in Gaza that opposes Hamas. Well, gee, I might oppose them too if they got half my population has to leave because of them. I might oppose them too if maybe I was taught to hate the Jews and kill the Jews. And when I was 2 years old, they taught me to hate the Jews and hate Americans. But now I'm seeing if I hate them too much, man, they come back and they hit you really hard. This is not a one-way street, boys. What are these jackasses doing to us? So they've been going out in the streets now for a year. And a couple of groups have actually organized counter that. Unfortunately, I really do think, although I've not had a really good conversation with somebody in Israel who understands it, but I haven't because I don't think it's necessary. I don't think they have organized a group that has the necessary strength to be like a negotiating alternative yet. And part of the reason is that Hamas is killing them. Hamas killing its own people. They're killing Gazans who are protesting against Hamas. And they've been doing it for a while. And then there was a video that was released, and we'll try to get it. It's a little hard to find. You know, when these things come out, the left-wing press hides them because they're contrary to their narrative, which is Hamas is a wonderful freedom. Hamas is like Samuel Adams and the Boston Tea Party. Except I don't remember John Adams raping any women. Hamas recently released a video showing members of the Al-Qassam brigades executing their own people. I've been telling you this from the beginning of this damn war. Some of those people they attribute to Israel killing, they kill. They kill them on purpose, and they kill them by accident because they're also a bunch of jerks. Who the hell fires rockets and half of them kill your own people, or a quarter of them kill your own people. Jerks. Mr. President, please don't reschedule marijuana from a Schedule 1 drug to a Schedule 3 drug. Now, why? It's bad. It's bad for you. And a tremendous amount of money was spent by people who don't care. It's like I don't know. It's sort of like the vaccine people and this is they rate it as a $30 to $70 billion business, the selling of cannabis and marijuana. And they make these arguments that are really specious. And I've argued against them for 40, maybe 30 years. I don't know. And now to see the proof is amazing. But it's sad. So a long time ago, they started saying, we should legalize marijuana. It doesn't really hurt you at all. And those of us who were involved in law enforcement and the reality of what was going on in the street could tell them the following. And this is when marijuana was a mere shadow of what it is today in terms of intensity and everything else. It was nothing. It was 5% TDH. Or was it TCH? I forgot.
THC.
THC, right. It was like 5%. Now they say it's 90%. That's like a different substance. But in any event, I wasn't a chemist. I couldn't tell you the chemical reasons for it, but I used to prosecute as the head of the narcotics division, drug division of the United States Attorney's Office of the Southern District of New York in the 1970s. I was 12 years old and as a baby. And my wife was a drug rehabilitation counselor, which was, so I would talk to her about the criminals and she would take me to see the addicts and then talk to me about the whole thing, rehabilitation, what works, what doesn't work, how it ruins their lives. And the first thing is, if you've been on the street and you know the street, don't listen to any of these people that tell you that marijuana is not a gateway drug. You know who tells you that? The people like these people who represent these big multi-billion-dollar pot companies that want to make a fortune off your misery. They're the ones who tell you that. Now, are they any different than the other pharmaceutical people they're just kind of like that part of what is developed in America, the whore class, the prostitute class with suits on. So the reality is very, very simple. This is not good for you. It's never been good for you. If you tell me, as they used to say, it's no different than alcohol, not as bad as alcohol. It turns out to be ridiculously untrue now. But, so, okay, we already have the alcohol problem. Why do we want to create a new one? We got one dependency. Is our model, let's do all the screwed up things we did with alcohol so we can end up with another whole group of dependent people who are sick and need a tremendous amount of help in order to get off the drug. Then we got the marijuana is not addictive. My God, if 5% marijuana was addictive, it's now 95%. It's powerfully addictive. And now I'm going to give you one that's unbelievable. There are certain ways, not in terms of, well, maybe if you're talking about 95%, but I can't say in terms of the impact it has on your on your mental state and emotional state and brain. But I'll tell you what it might be. It might actually do more brain damage than other drugs, illegal drugs. Now, this could be because it was studied more with marijuana. Might be the cocaine and heroin, but there's a very strange thing that they've seen now and been studying it quietly for about 30 years. And in the last 10 years, it's emerged like a giant piece of science. So I really recommend that you take a look at two columns today in the Post. One by Charles Gasparino, and it's really, I mean, Charlie is probably the best economic analyst guy you got, and he analyzes it purely from the point of view of economics as to how is this going to go, because there's a big split within the MAGA movement, those who feel that this is just part of the degradation of the United States and part of the communist plot to render us an amoral society, which is, of course, a goal of, I should get my chart up again, that I did about 3 years ago when I called it, going into the Marxist station. And this is one of the things they want to do to you. They want to render your population dependent. Well, dependent on welfare, dependent on substances, even better. Well, you think it's an accident that Russia has so much alcoholism and it was a communist country? Not an accident. I mean, they had the elements that would allow you to do that. So that's the one you exacerbate. There are an estimated 17 million Americans who use pot regularly. That's a lot of people and a lot of votes. Matt Gaetz is pushing the president really, really hard to take marijuana and downgrade it from when all the time I was a U.S. attorney or assistant U.S. attorney, it was a Schedule I narcotic, which means that you had heavy penalties for it. And here's the most important thing, where these greedy bastards are getting involved and raising like $157 million to pay off the congressman and everybody else. You can't get, the banks won't loan you money. So these are big businesses. There's one in particular called True Leave. Have you ever heard of them, Ted? True Leave?
I have actually, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who they are.
I don't know why or where.
Well, True Leave are a bunch of people who make money off destroying the human brain by selling a very large, powerful quantities of a substance that any number of major studies have now proven, beyond peradventure of a doubt, have a very, very close connection to developing schizophrenia and other depression and other forms of serious mental illness, particularly in young men. And I'll give you the studies. I'm not making it up. I wish I was. Did I know this before I had these? I didn't need these studies to know this in 1970. I could see it. I could see it. And so could everybody else, including the lying marijuana users who say, oh, it was nothing. It was nothing. Well, actually, that little thing they were smoking now, 5%, 90%. We're like in a different order of magnitude here, aren't we? And if that thing, and a lot of these studies, by the way, have been done over the last 20 years. So we're not talking about, when I give you these numbers, we're not talking about the most current, most powerful form of it. We're probably talking about something near the middle, which makes this much more concerning. So a Danish study published in the American Journal of Psychiatry in 2017, which is now long enough, so it should have calmed down this propaganda machine, medical use of marijuana. My first reaction to medical use of marijuana is there are plenty of medicines to deal with pain. Why do we need marijuana? What are you trying to fool me? Miranda Devine's got a great column today saying that was exactly the purpose of it. God, why do I agree with her on everything, Ted? What a brilliant woman. So this Danish study was published way back in 2017. So we've had enough time now to really consider this. It found that up to 30% of young men's schizophrenia could have been prevented if they had not used marijuana. That's a big number. 30%. Even one psychotic episode triggered by marijuana use was associated with a 47% chance of a person developing schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. The highest risk are those from 16 to 25. And that's who the dealers focus on. And this is a study of 6.9 million people over a 20-year period in Denmark. Those are pretty big samples. And I tell you, I knew this before they did any of this because I could see them. My eyes told me what this study proved. Another longitudinal study of 50,000 Swedes that began way back in 1987 found that marijuana users were twice as likely as non-users to develop psychotic disorders, such as schizophrenia. How about we try this? Heavy users had a 6 times greater chance. Casual users, 2 times greater chance of going nuts up. Heavy users, 6 times greater chance. And during that period of time, 1987, it was far less potent. Marijuana of 40 years ago had about a 5% concentration of THC, the intoxicating component of cannabis. Today's industrial products, like the little gummies that they give to kids, vapes, pre-rolled joints, they could be as high as 90%. A gummy, you got a little brain. The less developed the brain, the greater the possibility of damage from THC and from marijuana. By enormous percentages, it moves from 2 times greater chance to 6 times greater chance. When you get yourself into the 16 to 25 age group. And how many people at 16 to 25 are using marijuana? How about this word? It's a recreational drug. It's a psychotic drug. Want to be honest? Or we want to live in Orwell's America? You want to be honest? It's a psychotic drug. Mr. President, don't fall for this bullshit. I know there's a political, I see Corey saying, gosh, if you just took it off the schedule completely, you'd own the youth vote. Problem is, Corey, that youth vote, you can't count on them. They might, between now and election, they forget who to vote for. This is a terrible thing. This is a terrible, 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 terrible thing. And you know all the marijuana cases that he pardoned, Biden? And they've done a study of them. Not a single one of them was just a marijuana possession case. They're all people who sold it. They just let him out on the street to do it again because he was sucking up to them to get their votes. Now, the new DEA administrator, Terrence Cole, who's had a history in the DEA and a distinguished one, is a very, very big opponent of all of this. And because of his understanding of the streets, nobody has to teach him this. Last year, he did an article, Not Just Weed, 4 times more dangerous in 3 decades. THC levels, wrote the new DEA director, are linked to increased problems with memory and learning, distorted perception, difficulty in thinking and problem solving, and loss of coordination. Did you ever wonder why Colorado is in the shape that it's in and they have a governor like Feliz Navidad? Because of that. You know, the poor people that get affected by this are the ones who have to smell it. Go walk around New York, there are sometimes you're overwhelmed with it. Even a ball, I remember, was it a ball game? It was after I was mayor. I don't know if I have a good sense of smell, Ted. I miss a lot of things that other people say. Do you smell that? I don't. I was at a Met game, I think. And you smell all that marijuana? And then then I could see the smoke. So then, and look, when I was an assistant, I was really familiar with a lot of them. People would come in, you could smell it on them. So we went through a left-wing communist propaganda phase on this, and it started with the sucker punch, as that great columnist Miranda Devine points out today. It started off with the sucker punch of the medicinal use of marijuana for pain relief. I have cancer, and the only thing that will help me. Get the hell out of here. You know how many pain medications there are? Okay, they're dangerous too, but they're prescribed, and they're because you have cancer. And frankly, if marijuana was the only thing that could help you, I'd be okay with that. But they fooled me because I thought that was the case. It's not. It's not even as effective as about 80% of the prescribed medications, with an issue that maybe they're prescribed too much. But put that issue aside. The last thing we need is another painkiller. We got plenty of painkillers, boy. We got painkillers you won't even know you're here, that don't have the side effects of marijuana. They have the addictive effects, but they don't have the brain deterioration effects, at least as far as we know. The big company, they call the industry now, Ted, big weed, like big pharma. Yeah. True Leave. They spent $153 million lobbying for legislation in Florida, where DeSantis went up against him. And, that was a 60% number you had to get in order to get it passed. So the disturbing thing is the people of Florida voted 54% to legalize it, but it didn't get legalized. But when you consider that they outspent their opponents about 5-1, that wasn't a bad result. And the president came out on their side. Remember? Miranda points out that the New York Times is now starting to tell the truth about marijuana, reporting that 18 million people, nearly a third of adult users, are reporting symptoms of serious cannabis use disorder. Maybe they made a mistake just repeating all that left-wing communist propaganda, because that's what it was. It was left-wing communist propaganda. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with a whole bunch of other very interesting things here we got. That we're really rolling along here, Ted.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
This is Rudy Giuliani back again with America's Mayor Live. Now, there was a lot of other news today that they're going to keep from you, so we got to get it to you really quickly. It wasn't just about, trying to show that the whole narrative they ran over the weekend on Trump, and there was a massive breakthrough that they just didn't cover, which is that Russia, who had been insisting that there'd be not only no additional security in Ukraine, but that Ukraine would disarm so they could just move in and take them over, agreed that Ukraine can work out with the West and with the United States whatever security arrangement they want to work out, including some sort of quasi Article 5 guarantee that should Russia violate the treaty, they'll all stand together. And part of that is the sensitivity to the fact that right now, Russia and the United States are violating the accords they signed when they convinced Ukraine to give up its nuclear weapons, which is that they would never invade, or they would defend them if they were invaded. Now, that was just sort of an agreement. It wasn't like a treaty, and there's a lot of ways you can weasel out of it. But on the other hand, Putin is also sitting there with agreements that were given to him by assurances that were given to him by people in the Bush and in the Clinton administration, including as high as the Secretary of State Baker. I'm sure at the Clinton level, the same thing, that we were not going to expand NATO. And then when we did expand NATO, that we weren't going to expand it anymore and anymore and anymore and anymore. So I only point that out to you, not because it justifies what Putin did. Putin's an animal, and he's a killer. I don't look for any excuse to do it. On the other hand, it's like the propaganda we used to do in the First World War and they used to do in the Second World War. We present this like Putin is an animal and Zelensky is a saint. Well, neither one of them are saints. Let's start off that way. And Putin, Zelensky has an awful lot of associations with an awful lot of corrupt people, and he's made a fortune, that little guy. And he's hiding an awful lot of evidence of massive corruption in his country and ours. And anybody who does that is just not a really solid, honest person. However, compared to Putin, he's the run-of-the-mill Ukrainian corrupt guy. Now, Putin is a world-class killer, conniver, genius for bad purposes. So you can't compare the two or the damage that they can do. Or in a pinch, if you only had the two of them to count on, who you would count on? It would be Zelensky. You'd rather not, but plus, one country, Ukraine, riddled by corruption, per capita probably as bad as Russia, has made a real attempt with tremendous forces conspiring against them. For Russia on one hand and their own crooked oligarchs on the other, to prevent them from being what they aspire to be, which is a liberal democracy, a representative republic, liberal democracy. Russia isn't aspiring to be that. So there are a lot of differences here, but it's not 100%. Putin certainly can say that he would feel very threatened by NATO, even closer to his doorstep than it already is. And his concession on security with regard to some kind of a security guarantee similar to Article 5, just not under the rubric of NATO, is a kind of interesting concession that I would not have anticipated. And I don't think they did, which is why I think they saw that maybe you could change this whole thing and pivot around that. Okay. Now, District of Columbia. So Ted and I told you, based on Rudy's little analysis, which is if the murder numbers are inconsistent with all of the other crime numbers, somebody's cheating because they can't hide bodies. They can do things like downgrade crimes or lose files. Now, we have individual evidence of their doing that. We have a woman who can't find her rape. We have now a captain who was suspended before Trump raised these issues 4 or 5 months ago, where he would go out and he would deliberately have them downgrade the crime to affect the CompStat numbers. Now, I'm an expert on this because when Bratton and I first started this, first year, they tried this crap on us. And when we caught him, we fired him right on the spot. We did 3 very embarrassing firings. And I'm going to tell you why. It wasn't just the honesty. I didn't care about the public all that much. I did. But those numbers were not public relations numbers. Those numbers told me where the crimes were going to be committed. So we're trying to eliminate auto theft. We got to 90%, by the way. We're trying to eliminate auto theft. So auto theft takes place in certain areas. And a lot of it was southern Brooklyn, so you could go right over the Verrazano Bridge and just head, oh man, you could head to Baltimore. You could head to Virginia. You could head to Florida. You could drive the damn thing into Mexico yourself by the time somebody reported it. So right near the Verrazano Bridge, wow, you got plenty of them. So we moved our cops there. And then that started to decrease. And then you watch it. You watch how it moves. That's how we reduce drugs. I can go on and tell you the whole thing. But you need honest numbers. If you're giving me dishonest numbers, I'm putting my cops in the wrong place and people are dying. I get real angry about that. Well, they were screwing around big time. That investigation was ongoing before Trump got involved in this at all. And when he said that, the liberal skunk, crappy papers all contradicted him. And I'm going to tell you how I knew. Right now, there are, I believe, this is an excerpt from a ComStat report. I started this. Not only did I start it, 4 years after we did it, 5 years after we did it, I said, let's publish it. You know why I published it? Because I knew I'd be succeeded someday by Democrat crooks. And I wanted these numbers put out. I wanted the city to get used to doing this. Nobody looked at these damn crime numbers on a daily basis before me. I created this habit. I love it. How many murders does New York have right now, Ted? 201. How many murders does DC have? Let's see, 101. Isn't that interesting? How many people does DC have? 750,000?
Right. New York's 7 times as big, right? 8 times?
What does New York have?
8 million?
How about 8.5?
Yeah.
Take a look.
Yeah. So that's like, that's how many times larger? I mean, that's over 10 times the population.
So if I were to say, tonight, if you walk out on the streets of DC, you have an 8 times greater chance of getting shot and murdered than in New York. Would I be accurate? Right now. With crime. Now,
yep.
It is true, by the way. It's down about 16% in DC. So they say, oh, it's down 16%. But you still have a better chance of being killed there than you do in Bolivia. Now, should you have a better chance of being killed in the nation's capital than Bolivia? Or Mexico City? Or Baltimore? This is, last year it was number 4. This year it's going to do a little better, but it can be in the top 10. How do you refuse help? Unless you're a slimy scumbag politician who doesn't give a shit about your people, which is what they are. So what the president is doing here is fabulous. Andrea Pizer in the Post did a fascinating analysis of the hypocrisy of the New York Times. Maureen Dowd, who hates Trump, she hates him. And she almost wears all her emotions on her sleeve. You can almost psychoanalyze it when you read it. But she wrote this column. I didn't read her column, which is unfair. I read Andrea's column commenting on it. She calls her LaDowd instead of Maureen Dowd. And she talks about, she begins it with, it's ridiculous to drag FBI agents, this is LaDowd, it's ridiculous to drag FBI agents from their desks to be cops on the beat. Of course, yeah, but actually it would prevent them from trying to frame Trump supporters and Catholics. And Dowd's a Catholic. She should feel good about that. I mean, the more they go after these other people, they'll stop trying to put poor little old ladies that actually believe that if you kill a 7-month-old baby in the womb, you're killing a human being. Can you imagine that? People actually believe that. And the tableau of National Guard troops, even unarmed, raises the specter of martial law being normalized and weaponized. Pulitzer Prize-winning based scribe Maureen Dowd wrote over the weekend, "Then hold your horses," says Andrea. LaDowd suddenly hit the brakes, skidded, and did a complete 180. It's also true that many DC residents are secretly glad to see more uniforms. No matter what statistics say, they don't feel safe. You know why she did that? Her sister's car was stolen. And as and Andrea has it right, but Andrea, you got to give credit where credit is due. Andrea says that all it takes to turn a liberal into a conservative is to mug them or make them a victim of a crime. You know who first said that? Edward I. Koch, my predecessor. Edward I. Koch said, there's only one way to turn a liberal into a conservative. Mug them. The press all kind of sneered, and they used to give him a hard time too, because he turned. You know, he was a Democrat, and then and he was very liberal, kind of. I don't know what he was, sort of a reform Democrat. So it's hard to say if he was a liberal.
Yeah, I mean,
hard to describe. But in any event, very smart man, and very much dedicated to Israel, which pushed a lot of this, really, with the unfairness that he saw being done to the country that he loves so much. And so he would say, because there were a lot of judges then as now who used to let these people out, boom, 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 all the time. One of them was Let Him Loose Bruce. And he's actually the father of the head of the Democratic Party in Manhattan right now, who appoints all the wacko judges and politically beholding judges. So he used to say, the only way to turn those judges into common sense conservatives is mug them. So one day, one of those judges, not Let Him Loose Bruce, one of the judges got mugged, and bad enough so he went to the hospital. So the press all showed up, right? And they asked the judge, they said, hey, I probably told you this story before, but it's worth telling again. They said, poor guy is, the judge, we have to say poor guy, but he probably had a lot of people killed by letting out these garbage. So the press was standing there and they said, Judge, they told him the story about Koch. Yeah, I heard Koch say that. Well, are you going to now, like Mayor Koch said, having been mugged pretty badly, we got a black eye and all this, you're going to become now a conservative? I will never give up my belief in the constitutional rights of all people. Well, nobody wants you to do that, but never mind. So then they ran back to Koch because they had him now, right? They said, Mayor Koch, you said that if all you have to do is mug one of these guys and they become a conservative. Judge Madupatuba says he's going to stay liberal. Koch didn't waste 1 second. He was so much smarter than they were. You know what he said? Mug him again. That's the point Andrea's making. Ladowd got to see the problems for Peggy in Georgetown, whose car got ripped off by one of these less than human animals who do this. But that's who the Democratic Party represents. Maureen, her father was a cop. And she's got it right, too. While the district's homicide rate has fallen, it's almost as high as New York at its most dangerous in 1990. I know something about that. You know, one of its most dangerous, Maureen? You lying, cover-up, cowardly left-wing apologist. 1992, the second year of David Dinkins. Do you know that David Dinkins, who by using 1990 you're trying to protect, had more murders in his 4 years than any mayor in the history of New York City? No other mayor ever had 2,000 murders other than Mayor Dinkins. Best thing that ever happened to Mayor Dinkins was Mayor de Blasio, who was worse than him. Now de Blasio, who knows, might get taken off the hook. Oh, what a trajectory for New York City. So does Does DC need this help with an 8 times greater chance right now, today, with crime allegedly down, which it isn't? There's no way there's an 8 times greater chance of getting killed in DC than in New York, and it isn't a dangerous city. I don't know what they're doing with the numbers. You want to appoint me? I can figure it out real quick. I helped to invent the damn program. And I know the crap that people do with it. And I got to tell you, I taught this program to police departments, honest and corrupt. And I can tell you, if it isn't done right, it's a useless program. You have got to be dedicated to the your decisions are only as good as how accurate the numbers are. So if your real goal is to reduce crime, you do everything you can to keep those numbers accurate. I used to give lectures on that.
What do you suspect is going on? A
lot of these jerks used to do it. Of course, when Bernie and I would teach it to them, they used to jerk around with it. And then we would quit.
Yeah,
we'd only work with the ones who are being honest.
Yeah, it's tough to work, especially on security and the type of matters you're working on. It's hard to work with someone who's being dishonest, but I'm sure you've seen every trick in the book.
So, Tom Fitton has written a great article in The Hill. You should read it, How We Have to Prosecute Russiagate. And we'll spend more time on that. Right now we're in this cycle for getting this war settled, but we'll spend more time on it. He's absolutely right. And there are a lot more facts that have to come out yet. I like what I see on this case against Shifty Schiff and lying Letitia James. I like it. And it really is fascinating. They both, I wonder, it really says to me, if I were in the Justice Department, I might want to take a look at more of these guys. I wonder how many do this. Usually when somebody like Schiff comes up with a scam like that, a whole bunch of them do it. So what did Schiff do? Schiff had owned 2 properties, one in Maryland, one in California. Because he could get a much lower interest rate on his mortgage, and because he could get a tax break for sure in California, I think also in Maryland, for a primary resident, he listed both of them as primary residences for 16 years. Well, that's a lie. By very nature, the definition of primary residence, you got to pick one. You're given it because there's just one. So, now the amounts of money involved in here, like he saved about 50 grand on one thing, 7,500 grand on another. Well, 7,500 grand over like 10 years, that starts to become some money, right? But the guy's net worth during this period of time, pushed into maybe the 3 millions. And this guy, as a lawyer, he probably couldn't put 2 pennies together. Who the hell would want? All he does is lie. Now, the funny thing is, this really, you know what this indicates? This indicates what a creepy little piece of crap he is, right? Cheats on everything. Guy was a congressman who's going to say he's got 2 primary residences. I don't know. Maybe not a lot of them would actually participate in a conspiracy to take out a lawfully elected president based upon evidence that he knew was totally manufactured, corrupt, and paid for. That's a bigger crime, isn't it? And I think he may be pardoned for that crime. Or maybe not. Is anybody going to look into these auto pens? I know for sure that an auto pen cannot pardon. A president has to pardon. There has to be some kind of deliberate decision by a president to pardon you, particularly the act of pardon. And I'm not going to bore you with the history of pardon. But pardon was a deliberate decision to forgive you, to forgive you for your sins. And you can't do it if you don't know about it. Now, it is funny that Letitia James did the same damn thing. She had 2 primary residences. One of them was, now she was in Virginia, and she claimed to have a primary residence in Virginia when she was the Attorney General of New York, and also had a primary residence in Brooklyn, where she got a favorable tax or mortgage rate. I'm not sure here, because you get a favorable one if it's less than a 5-bedroom apartment, I think, and it's a marital apartment. Well, I guess Letitia's not married, except she falsely claims she was married to her father. Did you know that? That's a pretty extraordinary thing, right? I mean, it's kind of shocking that somebody would put down they were married to their father in order to cheat, right? You would think it would really be well known. The liberal press is hiding as best they can. She claimed they were husband and wife. Maybe they are. I think there's a crime against that. I don't know. I mean, you take her at a word?
I'm just sure there's like the Pratt building. Is there
You want me to tell you how to access my...
No, I'm just asking.
She's got Ed Martin on her. She's
Tell me
dead.
why you're here.
We're interested in the houses.
You're not interested in the houses. We know who lives here.
Is this like second income?
I wonder why they're so
A crack house,
sensitive,
that's
Ted.
what all of these things
I know,
are.
but when was it built, do you think?
They're built before 1899.
Oh, so, okay.
Why are you being so disingenuous about what you're here for? You're not here about the houses. You're here because of who lives here. It's my neighborhood.
He's there to help the United States of America.
Something wrong with
To
this.
collect taxes.
She's defending.
He's defending
can't-
our integrity
And she this
and the integrity of the system.
I can't even. That's just disgusting.
Roosevelt
Good for Ed.
Avenue.
Thank you, Ed.
Roosevelt Avenue residence in Queens. And I know Roosevelt Avenue really, really well because I lived near there for a year and a half. And also, it's the roadway to the Mets. It also used to be massive Irish neighborhood. Up in the Bronx. Second best Irish bars in the city. You wanted to go watch a Notre Dame game and have some real fun, you'd go there, or you'd go up to Gaelic Park, up in where Manhattan College is, that area, because I knew that better, the Pinewood. I shouldn't mention that because they'll go back and check and see what kinds of things I did at the Pinewood when I was in college.
What? You gotta tell us. Give us a college story, Mayor.
Oh, he missed a lot of stories on me, I'll tell you. Okay, so Roosevelt Avenue, the Roosevelt Avenue associations are pleading with the federal government to come in and make it a federal case because they say it involves national security. And these are very, very responsible American citizens there in this area I know it really well. As I said, I live there. I have relatives that live there. I've seen it go through every change imaginable. I was the mayor and the U.S. attorney. I kind of know the city, right? Mm-hmm. Now, Roosevelt Avenue, these organizations say, is turning into a gangland hangout. Because this should be called Biden land. Or I'm sorry, I don't think we should even call him Biden. I think we should call him President Autopen. Because we don't know who the Politburo was.
Right, it wasn't him.
We think we know. I know a lot of people think it's Obama, right?
Right.
But we don't know for sure.
We don't know for sure. He had a role.
But I mean, we are entitled to know who authorized the signing of these various things.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he didn't, it's not valid.
Bingo.
Gee, Shiv, maybe we can prosecute you for everything.
Well, yeah, we're
a Schiff is not a pardon for mortgage fraud. The only guy who got a general pardon, this is another strange thing, they're all going to get pissed off about. Because when he did the pardons, they did a big analysis of general pardons. And a lot of people think he gave everybody a general pardon. He did not. He gave his son a general pardon. The others, I mean, Hunter could have raped 40 women and killed 50 people, and he's pardoned. I don't say that he did. I have no proof that he did that. I don't think he did that. I'm just using it as a legal illustration of what he could get away with. Did he do something that he got away with? The odds are he did, given his life, but not that. So they say there are gangs there of all kinds, a lot of them international, a lot of Chinese organized crime there, which has a national security overlay to it, Ted. And they want the Federal Bureau of Investigation to come in. They've got two gangs operating there that are sort of facing off against each other. Trendiragua, which is the Venezuelan-based gang, which is very powerful and very, 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 and the Chinese and the Chinese triads, which I have to tell you, I'm not up on. Trendiragua, he and I have been following more than anybody, but the triads, I must say, I haven't been on top of that. This area is heavy prostitution, heavy child trafficking, massive drugs, all different kinds, competing groups. I should take a look at I will tomorrow. I've got to take a look at the Comstat numbers to see what kind of violent crime do they get, because they have competing drug organizations, and that usually leads to, unless they have both gangs continue to operate in our community. They're talking about the Latin Trendiragua gang and the Chinese triads. Maybe they have an agreement, and they handle, like, the triads specialize in sex trafficking of women. The Latin groups, which by that they mean the Trendiragua, is drugs. And the worry is that the triads also bring in suspicious creatures that they think are involved in Chinese skullduggery, Chinese sedition, and the Chinese do something that, on a very large scale, that is a little unusual. I'm sure it's been done before, but at least I didn't come across it all that much. They have, like, within the United States, and this is before they got the free pass from Biden to send any son of a bitch they wanted to here. They have these police forces that watch the Chinese first generation, second, even the third generation. And they'll utilize them when they can through intimidation, and if they have people back in China to spy. And they're both a criminal organization, and they're a espionage organization. And they're really here for two purposes. Because if you think about it, in the theory of communism and Marx, this whole drug thing is something they would very much support, because it deteriorates us as a group of people. The more deteriorated we are, the more they can control us. the more they can take advantage of. If we were all addicted, it'd be fabulous. They can make us into the communist stooges they want to make us into. And boy, they've made a lot of us into the communist stooges. Look at all the people that voted for the communist stooges running for mayor. Hochul is pardoning illegals. She's pardoned 13 so far. One of them was convicted of manslaughter. I don't know. Do I have to spend any more time on that? Are you going to vote her out of office? God almighty, she's an embarrassment. You get a good mayor like a good governor like Stefanik in there, she can start straightening it out. That's a tough woman. Decent woman. Hochul. When we get to that campaign, we got plenty on Hochul. There's some very good advice that was given to the president here in this article, and I like to point these out to him. I don't even know who wrote it. I've got to go back and look who wrote it. But basically what they're saying, Ted, do you agree with this? Do you think that in the immigration enforcement area, they're concentrating too much on the people who came in illegally or stayed over illegally, but haven't committed crimes, and not spending enough time on the 200,000 or 200, whatever, 2 million or whatever the hell it is, who committed crimes? That's a good question. President doesn't want that. This is a question of something went wrong between the desire and the execution of the desire.
Right.
Which can be straightened out. But do you think that's right? I'm not sure that's right.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we got to blame Biden for
of course,
for most of this. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Of course, the media is going to highlight. So I'd really want to dig into the numbers. It'd take a lot to see, how the resources are being used.
You almost can't avoid. You can't avoid picking up some illegals who haven't committed crimes. If you're going after illegals committed crimes, they're all living with each other. They're all together. So you go in and you do a raid going after the criminals, and you pick up half criminals and half not, right?
Right.
So now what do you do with the ones? They're not criminals based on the left-wing definition of immigration, but they are lawbreakers.
You're right. I think
they have no right to be in the United States. Do you just set them free and kind of approve that behavior? Or, I mean, it's a very tough problem.
It's a very tough problem. I think it's part of the risks you take by entering the country illegally, right? I mean, I think we got to get over this notion that every single person that comes here is like a paraplegic child that is in need of help, right? So that's part of the risk you take when you come here illegally. If I were to go to France for whatever reason and not tell them I'm there and start working some job, and let's say I love it, I'm in the south of France working some job in the water that involves the water and maybe fishing, and I love it, right? And oh my goodness, it's great. I would still understand that at any point the French authorities could round me up and tell me to get the heck out of there, especially if I we're using resources and such. It's amazing how they've spun this, where we're not allowed to secure our borders without being racist and intolerant of immigrants. And that narrative worked for 30, 40 years. And we have a president who's been speaking about it now for a decade. And we're seeing the results. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable in some cases.
I don't see you.
I've been on
I want Ted. I want Ted.
But
I want Ted.
So it's an uncomfortable reality. I got to get a haircut, by the way.
Ladies.
I'm going back to the
you have to forgive me. I'm an old man. That's my excuse.
I gotta get a haircut.
He's a young man.
I gotta fix the lighting here. But it's uncomfortable reality. But if you're here illegally, maybe we don't prioritize the ones that aren't causing problems. But if you're caught up in the mix, that's I mean, you came here illegally. But you got to go back, and maybe we have a process to allow some folks to come back under legal, through the legal system. But this whole problem has been caused by Democrats and people who have demonized those of us who have wanted a secure border. So we got to secure the border. We got to prioritize the illegals who are causing problems and are posing immediate risk. At the same time, if you're caught up in that, and we may not be targeting you, but if you're caught up in it, you're just as subject to deportation. And we don't have to celebrate it. Again, this is a sad reality created by Democrats who have allowed millions and millions of people to come in here. I don't blame people for wanting to come here. It's the greatest country on the face ever to exist on the face of the earth.
Of course, but we have to have control of it to be fair to the people who come here in a legal way. And those are the people, honestly, we would prefer. We want people to come here that have an understanding and a discipline to follow the law, as opposed to people that are undisciplined and think they can jump ahead, they can do anything they want. They're just going to be more productive and better citizens. When we talk about the great era of immigration, these were extraordinarily conscientious people.
Yeah.
These are people who had the courage to leave their own country with $2 in their pocket. They had a plan. It may not work out. It may not work out. But these were extraordinary people, and they were value added to our country. Now, if we want to continue to be a great country, and we've become a great country because we got all these value added people, we can't let a bunch of bums come in. And we let, when you do what Biden does and you break down all the standards, you let a lot of bums come in. I mean, why do you think we have so many criminals here that are illegal aliens now when we didn't before? When the press tells you that illegal aliens don't commit crimes at the same percentage as Americans, they're talking about 20 years ago. I know that. I've been in this for 30 years. I can tell you that. Here's another one that drives me crazy. This. When I was mayor, I thought this was the biggest civil rights issue. It would be the biggest civil rights issue of the 20th century. And it's the education of Black and Hispanic kids and what their politicians do to them.
Yeah.
And the Democrat Party. So I'm going to give you an example here. Can we put this up, Ted? Charter schools. Let me tell you what a charter school is. A charter school is a public school supported by the state that doesn't have to follow the rules of the communist, anti-children, pro-lazy teacher programs called the National Federation of Teachers or the Teachers whatever, founded by communists. So charter schools don't have union teachers. See that rate in the Bronx? See that rate? See the rate for the public schools with the teachers union, with the communist teachers union? That's probably a phony rate too. The private ones can't cheat. These guys can cheat all they want. Now I want you to look at the other score. One is English and the other is math. It's the same, right? So where do you want your kid to go to school? Tell me. Charter schools? Of course. You know what New York State has done? For the last 5 years, they've had a limit on the number of charter schools. They're going to make Black and Hispanic kids too smart. You know who puts the limit on them? The teachers union. You know who votes for it? Black and Hispanic Democrats. Of course, like just the same way that Schumer sells out the Jewish people, They sell out the black and Hispanic people. Now, let's look at one group. This is probably maybe the best charter school in the city, Success Academy. But the reason I pick it is over 90% of their students are black and Hispanic. Over 80 to 85% of their students are impoverished. So they're not picking, what do they call it? They pick the best. They're taking whatever they get. And believe me, the manipulative, completely amoral teachers union gives them problems. You see those rates? See those rates? Success Academy is in red. Public schools, these are going head to head against each other in the same area of the city. And by the way, the Success Academy has a larger percentage of black and Hispanic kids than the public schools. They're beating them 2-1. Now, here is the sin. They have a limit on the number of charter schools. Hasn't been lifted for 4 or 5 years. I don't know. I have the number probably wrong because there's about 150,000 applications from desperate parents, mostly black and Hispanic, that want to get those kids into one of those charter schools. And they can't get there because if it ever really happened, it would destroy the corrupt teachers union. So I'm tired of this. Oh, most teachers are really wonderful people, and they really want to. What the hell are you doing as a member of the teachers union? That's what they used to say about the Nazi prison guards, too. What the hell are you doing? Why don't you just leave the union? So it has nobody. Doesn't care about kids. All it cares about is see if we can get you down to a 3.5-hour day and 9 months. I mean, what do you work now? 8 months? So we can get down to 7 months. And maybe we can have another pandemic so you don't have to work for 2 years. It's disgusting. And these are our children. These are our children we're doing it to. These are our children that we're doing this to our children. I mean, there's no. I can give you all kinds of charts comparing charter schools and public schools and public schools, and there's no comparison. Here, the only difference. Now, if I went to private schools, it'd be ridiculous. They blow them off the map. But the charter schools is a public school that doesn't have to follow the union rules, and most of their teachers are not union teachers. Because in a public school, the school is run by the teachers' union representative, not the principal. It's based on a pure Marxist communist model. In the old Soviet Union and the present China, major organizations are run by the party representative, not by the so-called head of the government organization or the business. So I always tell people to read the great book, The Hunt for the Red October. Then you'll find out that the Lithuanian admiral who was part of the Soviet Union but wanted to defect to the United States couldn't do it because the guy who really ran the ship the real admiral of the ship was the Communist Party agent assigned by Moscow. So before he could do it, he took him, killed him, and stuffed him in some kind of a discharge. It's a great movie. If you want to get a sense of the depravity of the Soviet Union, which exists in the mind of a man who is very present now and destroying lives, Vladimir Putin, you watch that. Now, you probably, people only know certain things about me. You have no idea how much time I spent on Soviet communism. You have no idea how much I hate it and despise it and know how evil it is and how evil communism is and how much it's behind. It kind of organizes all of the evils that we face and all the degradation that we face. It's the reason God is out of our country, out of our thinking. And we don't get God back, we're finished. Well, there are some great public schools. I focused on Success Academy, but there's Zeta Charter Schools. So you look at that 91, 96 that I have there. They're at 92, 95. Oh, God, they're outperforming the public schools. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. Success Academy. Now we're talking about Black and Hispanic students. These are the kids we want to help, right? Look at that. Now, who's stopping it, Ted? Black and Hispanic Democrats, traitors to your own people. How can you live with yourself? How can you live with yourself? The teachers union endorsement is worth that much? You're not a good enough politician, so you can't go out into the damn streets? I mean, I don't know how much a city or a state assembly district is, or I ran in a whole city. Lazy bums. There's the Zeta Charter Schools. They're doing 91.9%, 94.8% against 45% for the city. There's the Icon Schools, named for the philanthropist, Icon, the great philanthropist. And they are deliberately trying to destroy them and limit them. You know why? Because they would take over. They would take over. They would absolutely take over. Nobody would go to the public schools. So we're going to continue to show this. What I'm showing you here in New York, because I know it best, is indicative of what goes on all throughout the country with charter schools. Also, I should point out to you that the universities in this country, do you know where the standards are going up and the quality of the students is getting absolutely much better? In the South.
Weather and politics.
There's been a 20% movement in the last 5 years from the Northeast to the South.
Watch out, Ivy Leagues.
Oh, let me give you a couple of these statistics. Auburn's freshman class acceptance rate decreased from 85 to 46% from 2014 to 2024. Do you realize how much more selective they've become? Clemson dropped from 52 to 38. Rice, which was actually pretty good to start with, 14 to 8%. Emory, 26 to 15. Meanwhile, the Ivy Leagues and the others are just hanging on. Well, who would want to go there? Who'd want to go there? I don't want my kid to become a little Karl Marx. Karl Marx was a Satan-loving pervert pig.
It's interesting, but the football's better too at those SEC schools.
That's why you would go, right?
Right.
This summer, the University of Kentucky had a professor who launched an online petition calling for international war against all Jews. He was gone the next day. In Columbia, we'd still be working on it, right? Mm-hmm. And half the school would be demonstrating in his favor. University of Florida, under the overall guidance of Governor DeSantis, God bless you, and North Carolina have among the strongest track records of enforcing DEI bans. And these are the schools that are doing much better because they're teaching the things kids have to know to be intelligent, functioning adults and not propaganda.
I mean, even when I went to school, I went to a public school, small town in Michigan. Those red numbers is what you would expect.
Oh, come on. It had to be beautiful.
Yeah, I had about a class of 100. I would guess 96, 95 or 96
Oh,
of
I'm
us.
sure. Yeah.
And it wasn't we weren't.
Public education in America was fabulous until the Communist Teachers Union got in control of it. And it's basically in the big cities.
Right.
Among other things, one should know, just so in case you don't pick it up, that the absolute disgrace of a candidate in New York, the totally unqualified little child Mondani, who's never done anything in his life other than live off his father's fortune, was, when he was in the state assembly, a big supporter of legal prostitution. The mayor, Adams, raises the very legitimate question, what the hell kind of a Muslim is he? That's Muslim? Prostitution? Selling your body for money?
Right. It's ridiculous.
He's in favor of the sex industry. It's just employment. We not only must we discriminate, decriminalize sex work, we need a comprehensive reform. We have to encourage sex work. How did Muhammad feel about that? Well, you're okay on Muhammad with the idea of killing Jews, but not the idea of women being careful about their bodies and how they use it. Many studies of countries, and this is like marijuana. Oh, if you legalize prostitution, there'll be less illegal prostitution. Just the opposite. Every place they've legalized drugs, organized crime has made a fortune. I told them that 40 years ago. Organized crime puts money behind legalizing drugs. Do you know that? Because they're smarter and cunning. And because you fed a lot of propaganda crap by the people who want to make a fortune blowing your kids' minds away, the weed industry. I don't know, some of our political people have gone over to advertise for weed. You know, they contacted me to do that, Ted. Even when I had no money.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them
I
to go
remember
F
that.
themselves.
I do remember that.
I told them to go F themselves. Stick the weed in your ear.
I don't know.
If I could have, I would have put them in jail. And many countries where prostitution is legal show it leads to increases in many other crimes. And it doesn't show any kind of drop in crime. This is the same garbage they did about marijuana. Oh, if you legalize marijuana, there'll be no illegal marijuana and crime will go down. So New York has legalized marijuana. The use of marijuana has gone up 3 times. The overdoses 2 times. The illegal market is now 5 to 1 over the legal market. It has grown about 4 times. And the organized crime groups that deal in now much more potent, 90% THC marijuana are making a fortune. And they secretly fund all the efforts to legalize marijuana. Mr. President, please, you've got too much common sense for this. Please. Keep it as a Schedule 1 drug until we understand it better. Look, I used to think it wasn't as serious. I never in my whole life prosecuted a possession of marijuana case. I wouldn't do it. I didn't think it was serious enough. I'm not sure even now a possession case is serious enough. People who sell it, that's different. Well, I got to give you a couple of other things that you won't hear anyplace else. But the family of the Indian who was the symbol of the Washington Redskins was never consulted when they changed the name of the team because they were a bunch of frightened little woke pussies. In July 2020, the NFL Washington Redskins announced they would drop their name and National American logo. And then 2022, they picked up the name Commanders off a prophylactic bag that they saw. It said Commanders, 12 Commanders for $42. So now they're the Washington Prophylactics. So now the family of the symbol, which was a very, very distinguished Indian, it was named after. His name was Chief Two Guns White Calf. That's the picture. I don't know if I can show it to you, but that was the picture of the Redskin. That's on the helmet of the Redskins. Right. When the helmets, I don't know what they have now. They have a Guardian on there, like a prophylactic Guardian.
Commanders, so it's just,
they're the Commanders. The Guardians are the stupid Indians. Mm-hmm. That's another one. So they're the Commanders. What do they have, a commander on there? What the hell is a commander?
Yeah, commanding officer, maybe.
We'll get in.
I don't know. I think it's up for.
Well, Chief Two Guns White Calf was very famous. He became famous because he represented a number of tribes in the West, including his own, which was known as the Blackfeet tribe. And he went there and he argued for enforcing the treaties. And he got the attention of Theodore Roosevelt. And Theodore Roosevelt made a lot of changes based on his recommendations. He also, on the other side of the aisle, had a very, very good relationship with Governor Al Smith of New York. And then eventually Calvin Coolidge. When he died in 1934, it was front page news all throughout the United States. His family was never consulted when they took his name off. Like, it's like you pick your Indians. Go find a couple of Indians who will tell you, oh, we're insulted. And then the last poll, there was an 85% warrant. Who are we doing this for? We're doing it for the Marxists because they want to reject as much of our culture and civilization as possible and make us bad people. So you get rid of nothing bad was done to this man, but you give the impression that something bad, you can't use this name because something bad was done. Nothing bad was done to him. This is part of how countries develop. And America has much less of it than any other. But by doing this, the Marxists are very smart. They get a lot of our kids, and you can see it, the way it plays out with burning the flag and attacking the police. They get us to hate the country. What kind of country develops kids that hate it? We should be spending our time developing kids who love it. And America is entitled to be loved. It's an exceptional country, warts and all. Man. Oh. Well, we went very over tonight, and I feel very bad because Dr. Maria was on. I hope you got off and went to see Dr. Maria. But you can go see the very end of it now because I'm sure her show is unbelievable. I talked to her about it today. I just have to make one point because this really bothers me. The reporter who wrote the vicious article about Sydney Sweeney and the genes, and how the genes meaning the things you inherit, and jeans meaning the things that she was wearing, which was just a cute, nice commercial. But this wasn't just cute and nice. This is vicious, hateful thing that's afflicting us that we have to fix. It was a little dummy named Doreen St. Felix, who's 33 years old. She has got a history of hating white people. How about whiteness fills me with a lot of hate? That was on Twitter. The Holocaust is the worst thing to happen to black people. Recruit her as a kind of Aryan princess. You all are the worst. Talking about white men. You all are the worst. Go nurse your effing Oedipal complexes and leave the earth to the brown and the women. That's just a little bit. Chris Rufo outlined them all. This is a woman who needs psychiatric counseling, or maybe she needs a basic education. I don't know. But where does this hatred come from? Well, we have more to cover, but it's not as important as the stuff we did cover. I want you to realize that although we haven't had the chance to cover it in as much depth in this show as in the earlier one, at the core of what was going on today was a major breakthrough that nobody has presented to you in the way they should. Back on Friday, somewhere in the first or second hour of the discussions with Putin, the Russians indicated something they had not indicated before. The Russians had said before that they were going to demand for peace, that Ukraine demilitarize, that Ukraine not be in any way capable of conducting wars or anything else, which translate to they can't defend themselves, and that they couldn't have any alliances like NATO or whatever. At the meeting with Trump, as the meeting progressed, they picked up the following, that Russia, in order to get the Donbass region, were willing to allow Ukraine, with the European allies and the United States, to work out the security arrangement of their choice. And it could include something like not an Article 5 guarantee, because they didn't want to be part of NATO, but like an Article 5 guarantee outside the scope of NATO. In other words, the countries that supported them would pledge to come to their defense should Russia violate the treaty and go over the border. Russia also promised not to invade any American, any European countries, America, whatever. But of course, that's already assured by NATO. But getting them to say that is a little step in the right direction. The other one is huge. The other one is big. And that's what Trump grabbed onto, to go to a peace treaty rather than a ceasefire, because that can get you all the way to a peace treaty. I mean, that's effectively NATO without all the trappings. Why do they want NATO? Well, they want NATO for a lot of reasons, but what's the main one? The main one is Article 5, which says if a member of NATO is attacked, we all come to their defense. Basically, they're saying Ukraine can create that for itself once they agree on boundaries. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to work out, but that's a hell of a breakthrough. And you got to be a really smart guy to realize, let me go that way. But that's the way I can get this done. And I think all over the weekend, nobody really perceived that. And today it was quite obvious. And that assemblage of world leaders, I don't know if there's been an American president in a long time that could have done that. What you saw standing on that stage that we started with his leadership, and it's why America is back. No other country could call that together. And no other country could be respected and feared the way this one is. And don't think that Russia doesn't. For all the flattery that Trump gave to Putin, Putin gave the same to Trump. They're just two enormously smart negotiators knowing how to play each other. And the question is, who's going to play each other better? And right now, I know the press is going to tell you the opposite. As of tonight, Trump is way ahead. You see Putin standing with the world leaders of what would be, as a conglomerate, the second biggest economy in the world, next to the biggest. That was quite a picture. That was quite a picture. West has rarely been that organized and that strong. And he's got to make a NATO into a real fighting force. You have no idea how historic that is, what you see there. All of them coming to Washington. All of them standing together. Now, I don't care if Putin is unrealistic as hell. Somebody's going to tell him, pal, don't screw around with them. They're stronger, bigger, richer than you are. And you screw them, they'll get you. Because that guy doesn't like to get embarrassed. He doesn't like his country to get embarrassed. Because he's a patriot. He's not like the people before him. Putin knows that. That's why Putin played him. It was actually a great tribute to Trump that he played him so hard. And vice versa. That's how you negotiate. You don't negotiate by yelling and screaming and degrading. Somebody's not going to sit there and negotiate and start calling them names. Well, Ted?
That was a great show, Mayor. We covered a lot.
We did cover a lot. And we'll have plenty more to cover tomorrow because more of the details of this will come in now. You know, we know what we were told, but now we'll find out the things that happened like we did, about Friday over the weekend, right?
Right.
So we'll have plenty more for you tomorrow night. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock on Lindell's speech and X, and then at 8 o'clock, America's Mayor Live here on X and everybody else.
Yeah.
And if any of you missed it, you can get it on X, Rumble,
YouTube, Facebook.
What?
Facebook.
Okay. Pray hard that this works. A lot of lives can be saved. And thank God for helping us get Trump and having someone who really cares about human life. You can see it. You can see it. You can see that he this isn't a game. He sees the reality of this. And he's got his people seeing it. That's what happens with a great leader. Your people start to embrace what you're able to teach. Like the one behind me, Ronald Reagan right there. I pointed the wrong way, right? No, this way. There we go. Okay. Well, the really great leader. This is that way. Well, so dear Jesus, if you're right there, pray for us. Pray for Ukraine. Pray for Russia. Pray for the deliverance of Russia. Pray for Iran and Israel, your chosen people. And I hope America is too. I think so. We've done a lot of really good things, God, and they demean us and attack us. And this is a well-meaning country. And not only a well-meaning country, an awfully effective country. It's done more for other people than any country in the history of the world. So we're not perfect. We've committed a lot of sins. We've done a lot of things wrong. We've done a lot of things really wonderful that puts us in a special category because we're a country that believes our rights come from you. So thank you, God. and we'll see you tomorrow. There's a lot of stuff going on tonight all over the world. Let's hope we can stop the killing. God bless America. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze, we are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it.